What's up, guys and gals? I'm your host, Mike Pugh of the FPC Virtual Channel, and you're tuning in to a sensational video series that I'm going to be covering. It's all about having fun with fonts, and it is a leap forward from what I started out with when I first started the sessions of Font Fun on Blender. So what you're looking at here is Blender 2.82. It's the most recent version of Blender, but it's more of like an experimental version. It's not in its full state and in its steady state or stable version yet. So keep in mind, it may crash, may freeze, may do all kinds of different things if you chose to download it. And what you're seeing here is the cube. We're gonna bypass this cube and we're gonna delete it. I'm gonna try my best to go as kind of cruise control on this video. It's a live stream, by the way, folks, and I don't have that much time, so I'm not going to really be able to tune in to people's comments and stuff like that. I'm just going to go over what I wanted to show y'all folks yesterday, which yesterday I just launched a video, and I'll show you real quick. The video is covering, let's see, right here, it's the actual animation that I did, and it's known as Blender 2.82 Twisted Text Animation. And I'll show you real quick if you didn't watch it. Pretty much it has this visual here, this gold looking twisted text. And I'm not going to play it. I just wanted y'all folks to see what it looks like as the intro to it. And if you didn't watch that video, I highly recommend for y'all folks to test it just to see what it looks like, maybe on your smartphone or whatever. And you can pull off this kind of animation yourself on Blender. And it's not really that complicated to do. Now, one of the things I wanted to show y'all folks is the add-on that I got, which is known as a tissue add-on for Blender. So you can go onto Google if you don't know where the add-on is and just type in tissue add-on Blender, and you'll find the actual location on GitHub where it was downloaded to by this guy named as Lissandro Zamparelli. I don't know if I messed up his name, his first and last name, but I apologize if I did. But that's the developer who is offering up that add-on on GitHub. So this is where I found it. It's probably like the second link after searching on Google, the second link that I found. So you click it, you go to the GitHub location, and if you want to get this add-on for Blender, if you already know how to do add-ons, pretty much it's pretty simple. You just go here. If you don't know how to do add-ons, I'm not going to show you exactly all of that, but you can watch some of my previous videos on Blender add-ons to try to help you. You can also type into YouTube, Blender add-ons how to or something like that, and that whatever video you find is going to show you how to do it. But pretty much if you never did it from GitHub, you go to this clone green download thing, clone or download, you click it, and then you go to download zip. Once you do that, you get the zip folder, and this particular add-on, you don't have to unzip it. So leave it unzipped. Leave it zipped, I should say. You want to go and find where that actual add-on is. It generally is going to download to your download section on your computer in the downloads folder itself. And to find it off of a browser, you just go to the download. You can right click and go to open containing folder, and that should send you to it. So that's pretty much everything I'm going to show you about that. To get the add-on activated, you go to edit with Blender 2.80 or any versions that are upgraded like Blender 2.81 or Blender 2.82 or whatever, and so on and so forth. So you go to edit and you go to preferences, and this particular add-on is for Blender 8.0 and greater. So from there you go to add-ons in the very dead center of the menu that comes up for Blender preferences, and then you go to install and you find it in that downloads folder on your computer, and or you can move it to a folder that you're familiar with. I moved it to a Blender add-ons subfolder that I created on my computer, and then I just go and find that actual zip folder. So all of these over here that you see is in a .zip file type, and that means it's a zip folder. So I would go look for it, and this is the one right here, tissue-b280-dev.zip. You click it, and then you click on install, this little blue install add-on button, and then it will be activated. Well, not really, it'll be partially activated on Blender. Then it should show up over here. I'm just going to type in TIS. You can put it in the search field if you left the window and needed to find it. But pretty much, say you didn't activate it, you would have to activate it. And mine doesn't look like it's activated. So I have to hit the little box here for the check mark to show up. Once you hit the little box, the check mark should show up in there, and then you can activate it. And for some reason, mine did not store my previous session when I activated it before. So for some reason, it's not there. So if it doesn't do that on yours, you want to go to save and load over here and save the settings. Or you can click this little, these three bars here, and that should bring up the save options as well. It should auto save it. See, it has a little tick mark or check mark in auto save preferences. You go to save preferences and it should save it, and then hit the X. So now that you got it on, what do you want to do? Now we did have the cube. I guess I deleted the cube, or I don't know what happened to the cube, but the cube is no longer here. Let's go to tissue, and this is the add-on here. So you're gonna have different options that you can choose from playing with it. The way that you manipulate stuff is you have to have the minimum of 2 objects. So what is the tissue add-on, by the way? Pretty much it is meant to provide you with creating tessellated meshes. So it takes the mesh and turns it into a different format of a look and a feel, and you can come up with really unique textures that are representative of differing structures that could build into 3D objects known as tissue, you know, type of structures or substances, textures, etc. So I'm not into doing that. Instead, I chose to do something different with it from what it's intended to be used as. So I go to add and say I want to add a text. I throw in a text in there. Let's throw in another 3D object. So I'll play around and bring in another mesh. So I wanted to try a icosphere as a primitive shape. So let's move this object over a little bit real quick. Hold on one second. I gotta play with my tweak option so I can move it. And let's put in some depth into the text and also rotate the text. So I'm gonna rotate the text up so you can see it, and maybe to the side a little bit. And that way you can see the depth of what the text has. Bring it down a little. And if you want to type into the text, you can go into the properties side over here and then scroll down a little bit, go to font. Actually, no, typing, my fault. Typing is edit. I forgot that part. So you go to where it says object mode, you go to edit, and then you can type into the text. So we're going to call this Blender. So we wanted to call it Blender. I tried to press enter. Enter doesn't complete the field. Basically, you just type into it, and then you go to edit mode up here and switch to object mode. So you just basically switch from object mode to edit mode, and then edit mode to object mode to get out of it. And you also can convert the object into a 3D object. Right now, the object is a text. And the way you can tell is because you have this option here where it says A in the properties area, and you can go and you can play with the font. You can change the font if you wanted to change it to a different font type. Let's see if I have a font type for it. I have different font types that are tied to my Windows computer, and you can put custom fonts that way too. You just have to find .ttf files online and then try to add it to your computer, which is pretty simple to do. And I showed that in a previous session. I'll try to tie it into the video's description area after the live stream is over, so y'all folks can get to those videos. Very simple things that you can learn. Let's try this movie poster font type and see what it does. So say you wanted to change your font type to that, and then say you wanted to add some depth like I told you. So let's go to geometry. So we drop the geometry menu and open it basically by hitting this little arrow, and then you go to extrude, and you can move your mouse to the right or to the left to extrude. See that? And pretty cool. I did not change any of the shading, so if I wanted to play with the shading, I can go up here. But right now, I don't want to really play with that because I don't want to put it to the rendered view, which basically takes more CPU demand and may cause a freeze. Instead, what I want to do is combine these two different objects as a tessellated mesh or a dual mesh. So I want to see what it does. So how you perform that, what you're going to do is use the shift key and select the other object while the initial object was selected, and then play with the tessellate through the add-on. So you hit the tessellate actual tab, it brings up another menu, and then you can go to quad, fan, patch, or frame. And I believe the frame is pretty dope. I tried it before. I'm gonna try patch just to see what it does. So you switch to the patch tab, make sure it highlights in blue by clicking it, and then click OK. I don't know what all these do. I haven't played with it, but I guess this is the thickness ability. You have smoothing, little check mark for smooth shading. You can do all kinds of different stuff. I just want to see what it does just by clicking OK. And it says error. Make sure that the topology of the mesh before the last subsurface or multiers is quad only. So if you have those errors, then that's cool. Start it over and try it again until you get something that works. So we'll try frame and see what it does with that. And it should do something, because I played around before and I wanted to see what would happen. And now you'll see what it does with this object. So it took this object and turned it into something entirely different looking. You see that? So this Blender font is applied to this object here. Now, another reason why we had some errors with when we went from tessellate, see, it won't allow you to do anything until you select. So you have to select at least two objects, then you can click the tessellate option. See that? So the reason why it didn't work with patch is because this 3D object here isn't an actual object in terms of, it's not a 3D object, it's an actual font still. So to turn it, or I should say it's not a mesh, so it doesn't have a mesh. If you go to object mode and edit mode, it's going to just try to edit the text. So what you have to do to convert it, you go to object while it's selected, and then you go down to convert to, and you convert it from a mesh. Hold on one second. You go from mesh to curve mesh serve text, I believe. Yeah, so let's try that. And that turns it into a 3D mesh. So now we can go in and we can edit it, and you'll see that you can edit the points. So you can go in and you can click the points, the vertices, and you can pull them, push them, you can extrude them, you can play with them how you see fit. You can hit the A key to select all, and then you can manipulate all of them at once. So you can do all kinds of different things with edit. So that shows you the proof that it's no longer an actual text font type of thing. So you can't manipulate the text anymore. Now you're able to do other things with it. So let's try to select this and that and see what it does this time. So now we're going to do tessellate and do patch and go OK. It still came up with an error. So probably because these are not quads, or these are not quads. I'm not sure what happened there. Let me delete this one and start over. Okay, so now we click this and click this. When you do actually click OK, it's going to create a brand new mesh on top of the pre-existing mesh, so you can actually move it. So I could have moved it away from this one. So let's try this one. Patch and go OK. It's still the same thing. Let's try dual mesh. Let's see what dual mesh does, and we'll go the other direction. We'll go from here to here, and we'll go dual mesh and click OK. It says quad faces. I don't want quad faces. Let's do triangles and click OK. And that did not work. Or did it? Let's see what it did. It did work, but it did something weird to the text. So that's what the text looks like now. Let's try to move it. select the text. Oh, there we go. So what we'll do is, hold on one second, go to tweak, make sure I can move the object out the way. And there we go. So this is what it did to the 3D text. It turned it into some weird looking distorted 3D text shape. So that's what you get there. And you can do much more, obviously. Let's try, instead of this object, actually before we do that, let's go the same direction and then try tessellate and try I don't know what fan does. Radio tessellation for polygonal faces. Let's try that. See what it does. Oh wow, that's pretty interesting. So it turned it into like a rock structure looking thing. So let's move this out the way and now delete this one just so we can see it a little better. Now look what it did. Now that's pretty interesting. So it pretty much combined the meshes and now you see a total different structure for your text. So let's go now. Let's try to see if it looks decent with the shading. So now we'll go to shading. Hopefully the computer doesn't freeze. If it does, it's all good because eventually I got to go to work. But I'm just want to show y'all folks what I've been able to do playing around with the different textures. So I'm gonna, yeah, I'll hide it. I'll just hide these two just so, you know, in terms of visual, we can only see this one. And we'll go to the shader option and then give a visual. We'll also go and click this and then go to the material property and then add some material to it. Give it a color, something to that effect. I don't know, maybe pink, hot pink or something. And we will change the lighting because the lighting is really bad by just moving this into the light and then zoom in so you can see what it looks like. That looks really crazy, but it could turn into something artistic looking or whatever the case may be. So it's all based on your perspective as the artist and creator and what you want your viewers to see in terms of using something in the Blender viewport and turning it into what you want the viewers to, you know, play with. Not play with, but to watch, I should say, or to see and visualize. So I'm turning the background to white or whitish, and I'm having a little issue with the lighting. So what I want to do here is change the lighting source to a little dimmer lighting source. So I go to the light bulb here after clicking the actual lamp in the viewport, and then go down here to the little light icon. Now I can play around. The power is too great, I should say, or too strong. So I'm going to bring it down to half. So right now it's set at 1000 watts. I'm going to bring it down to 500 watts. And now you could see the light change. So let's go back to the background adjustment. This is the world icon, which gives you the background adjustment properties or world properties. I can click on the color here and then try to bring it more closer to white. You can also change the strength, but that's going to also add more brightness. If you do that, see that? Or you can bring it back, reduce the strength, and you'll get darkness. But that will take away from your lighting to some degree sometimes. So it's better to change the color of the background to black if you wanted to go black. Like that. See that? You can also change the color to any other color here for your background. But sometimes it doesn't look that great depending on what you choose. So it takes some time to play with this to get a really, really good look. So most of it deals with the amount of lights that you have or what kind of background lighting you chose. You can use HDMI backgrounds and stuff like that and play with it and try to see if the lighting improves. But pretty much it's just one of those things where you got to keep adjusting back and forth. Let's bring up this to about 700 watts or whatever, 720, it doesn't matter. As you can see, you get better reflectivity over time depending on what you put the light to be set at. So let's dim out the background a little bit, just to bring out the text a little better. There you go. So now you're seeing a pretty decent reflection. So now if I bring the lamp closer, also, you'll see more light rendered at a specific point. So this is real-time rendering through Eevee. And you see, as you can see, the lamp is changing the viewport perspective and lighting for the actual font. So there you go. Let's bring this down a little bit more. Now it's kind of bright. So now I can go back and then adjust the power. So bring that power down to 500 again. And now you can see 500 was a pretty decent setting for a darker background. So it's more of a give and take type of thing you got to play with to be able to come up with the exact look that you want. But this gives you a great example of how to take advantage of this tissue type of tool. They call it tissue tool. It's a tissue add-on. And I'm not the greatest at it. I just started playing with it, but I wanted to play with it for text purposes. That's why I got it, because I had ideas of what I wanted to create in terms of text. And then I have other ideas, and I'll show y'all folks some other stuff that I did where I manipulated this character here. I created her a little while back using MakeHuman, and I came up with a really unique look for her face to look a certain way. And well, actually, I'll go into the files I have for her, and you'll get to see the before and after close up. So this is the before. Hold on one second. My computer's moving a little slow at the moment. Trying to bring it up. Let's go to open with, and then go to Windows Photo Viewer. This is pretty easy to navigate using it. And we'll just wait for it to come up. So there we go. That's the before. And hopefully the computer doesn't freeze. It feels like it's going to freeze. Here goes some angles of her. And then this is the after. So this is applying some of the tessellation. Actually, I think I did dual mesh here. And I used that same isosphere. And this is the shapes that came up on her face, which is pretty dope in my eyes. Something totally different from the average or what you're used to seeing in terms of character creation. I love the fact that MakeHuman makes it so that when you tie it into Blender 2.8 or greater, you can get really, really realistic eyes. The hair looks pretty dope, even though this is more like a cartoonish looking hair, but it still looks dope. That's what I believe. I don't know what y'all people think. Here you go with this one. This is more brighter blue, like a Smurf looking blue. And then it has some highlight details around the eyes and around the chin, a little bit stronger, more going towards purple. So I wanted to play with this just to see what that would do. I haven't been able to get the texture to look more like a realistic face with this particular this new look that it has on it, but I haven't played with the shaders too much in that shade editor or shader editor to manipulate it further. But this is just using one of the settings on it, and also through the color texture, the new add-on for MakeHuman. They have a color texture add-on for skin. It's a new add-on that's tied into the MakeHuman community add-on, and it gives you the ability to change the skin tone. So I'm gonna add that video in the future for y'all folks to see, which you can also go to MakeHuman off of YouTube, and you can find that new add-on, which I'll bring y'all folks to it before I end this session, so you can see where I got that from. Let's just type into YouTube here. Go to YouTube, and then search for MakeHuman. This stuff is pretty dope because even some big-time film studios are starting to use this software as well. I actually watched a Blender conference video where I found a guy who was using it, and he's working for an official big-time studio. He's using MakeHuman to help him do game assets, mostly like game previews and film previews, which is pretty dope to know that others are using it on a larger scale, professional scale. So let's go to MakeHuman. And I'll try to tie that as well in the video for y'all folks to see. So we go to this MakeHuman icon looking channel, and this is the most recent update for this particular add-on. So it's the new Blender Enhanced Skin Shader add-on, or how would you say it? It's the MakeHuman add-on, but they added a skin shader into the add-on. So let me mute the audio so I can show y'all folks the video to some degree, but more of the description area, because that's what you need to get, where you need to get the add-on. So you go to it, I'm gonna pause it, and you go into the video description here, and you'll find in this GitHub area, I believe this is where you would get it. Let's click over here, and yeah, so you'll get it from here, and it should have the new shader in there. This is basically the newly made add-on. The previous add-on was a little different. This newer add-on is made much more simpler, but I don't know if this is the actual visuals for it, but it looks like this when you get it on Blender. And it's really, really user-friendly. It's pretty dope. So this is just documentation on GitHub, but pretty much you'll download the GitHub file, just like I showed you in the beginning, how to download the other GitHub one from Alessandro, the tissue add-on. So you just basically click here and go to download zip. But when you get into it, you're gonna have to unzip it and then find MH community. That's the one that you have to get when you unzip it. So you would have to actually unzip, find MH community link in there, or the actual file, I should say, and then right click and then zip that one. And it's just a lot of little things that's involved in that particular process, and I showed in another video how to do that. So where that video is, I'll try to link it in this description area so y'all folks can get to that one for my videos in terms of how to get it, the new add-on, and how to make the add-on work, because some of these add-ons are a little tricky. They're not straightforward on how to get them to work. So it took me some time to figure out a lot of this stuff, watching tons of YouTube videos and getting in and out of different YouTube videos. So I don't know which one it is, but somewhere over here, MakeHuman, let's see, it's probably an older one. No way, it's not 5 months ago. They didn't have that add-on. Actually, I did not come up with that video, but it's in another video. So that how-to part is in another video. Hold on one second. When the MakeHuman community add-on first came up, I think this one right here, MakeHuman community 1.2.0 alpha 3. Yeah, so you can check this video, and it should be in this video, how to get that add-on, that specific add-on for MakeHuman community. But like I said, this is the upgraded one. So when you go through that same process, you would get this one instead of the one that's showcased in that video. And other than that, that's about it. I'm out of here. Joe Love and peace to all, folks. Mike Pugh is signing off. I'm going to be covering much more using this tissue add-on on Blender 2.8 as well as 2.81 and Blender 2.82. The official actual stable release of Blender is 2.80 right now. 2.81 is in the alpha release right now, so it's being worked on. I believe it's in either alpha or beta. I'm not really too sure. Let me go to blender.org. If y'all folks are brand new to Blender, don't know anything about it, you want to go to blender.org to learn how to, make things work with it, as well as understanding what it is in general. It's basically a 3D software suite where you can generate 3D graphics of all sorts. You can also do video editing and all kinds of stuff. So here we go. We got Blender 2.82 alpha. So this is in the alpha version. Blender 2.81 beta is in the beta version, and then Blender 2.80 is in a stable version. So right here, this is the experimental builds. I show folks how to get to this as well in a previous video. You don't have to watch that video, but it's pretty simple. You just go to blender.org, and then you go and click download Blender 2.8. And I think you scroll down where it says go experimental, and you just click there. And it gives you the other versions of Blender to play around with, to experiment with, to test, etc. You can also learn about new features. You click this new features and changes, and you can learn from there. And you can see all the differing things that are available. They also have older versions of Blender, which are also stable, and it's just different in terms of using the viewport, using the interface and stuff like that. So I highly recommend for you to use the newer versions because it's much more upgraded, has much more stability. Oh, not much more stability. I should say it has much more availability with the newer options that are now updated and fully upgraded. So yeah, that's all I got. Like I said, and I'll see y'all folks in the next session, in the next session, in the next. If you tuning in for Blender purposes, I'll be continuously covering Blender and all the things that I learn as I learn the actual portion of that particular learning feature or function or whatever I need to know. I'm going to be launching videos probably the very next day after I learned something new that came out or something that helps me to understand something else that I've been trying to perform on Blender. So other than that, that would be a reason for y'all folks to choose to subscribe if you chose to subscribe. And also I'll be covering other things in terms of video in the future, which I was doing in the past with OBS, the Open Broadcasting Software Studio, which is what I use to launch these live streams. So if you want to do live streams and stuff like that, I'll try to help y'all folks to learn more on how to make that work. But that's what I'm using here. You see in a mirror, go through the screen right now of the screen of the desktop on my computer. But I'll show y'all folks more on how to do that stuff if you want to learn how to do that. And that's another reason why you would probably 9 times out of 10 want to subscribe to this channel of FPC Virtual and or any other channels out there that feature this type of stuff. But I'll see y'all folks in the very next videos. Catch you next time. Peace.